All right. Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast on Friday, February 9th, 2024. We're going to talk about Super Bowl 58. We're going to talk about an interview as well. But I want to start by talking about last night's NFL Honors Awards because the Houston Texans dominated them. Let's start with the big awards. And the one that we all care the most about was C.J. Stroud going to get recognized as MVP of the league. No, he didn't even get a vote. But he was nearly unanimously voted for as Offensive Rookie of the Year. He got 48 of 50 votes. Puka Nacua got the other two first-place votes. Sam Laporta was third. In the MVP conversation, you had Lamar Jackson winning it a second time, Dak Prescott, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Josh Allen, your top five. And all that's nice, right? But I want to play the best moment for C.J. Stroud in the last 24 hours before we talk about the rest of the Battle Red Wave at the NFL Honors last night. I don't know how many people watched the Up and Adams show. It's a show that you can see on Twitter. I believe it's also on all the other channels you'd expect it to be too. Here is Kay Adams talking to our quarterback, C.J. Stroud, and I love every second of this. You can watch it at youtube.com/Paul Gallant or twitch.tv/Gallant Says. And on Twitter, if you are listening to this after the fact, here they are.
This is the actual Lombardi Trophy, CJ.
I don't want to look at it yet.
What?
I'm not going to look at
You're
it.
not going to look at it? Why?
Because I'm on my own, and I don't want to.
This is the actual one that will be given out to either the Niners or the Chiefs. You don't want to look at it.
Nope. I'm on my own.
You won't even make eye contact with it. I find that fascinating. Really, everybody else is like taking selfies with it. No, why? Can you explain that a little better?
I'll be honest. I mean, if I were in that situation, I would probably just be staring at Kay Adams and call me a sexist pig all you want, but goodness gracious, she's a beautiful woman. C.J. Stroud, why aren't you looking at the trophy?
And so I get it?
I don't know. I just feel like I want to put my eyes on the one that I want to win, you know? So that's already up for grabs from two other teams, and, you know, I'm not available in those games. Those aren't my team. That's not my team, so, you know, I'd rather just wait next year for mine.
I love this mentality, and I hope it happens, and you guys are well on your way. You have leadership and all the right things and all the right stuff and all the right places.
Honestly, Kay saying all those things just makes me very excited about the prospect of the Houston Texans going forward. Deep steel blue chew for their future. You know why this quote got me super excited? There's a quote that you hear from Tom Brady. It's a story that you will regularly see him tell about his time while at Michigan. It's something that he gets asked about in the immediacy after his first Super Bowl, where he's got a big old butt chin and everything. And I got to find it on DVD because he has said this so many times now that you would assume that this is only something that started after the first three Super Bowls. But here is Tom Brady answering a question about what his favorite Super Bowl ring is. My Lord and Savior, Tom Brady, on 60 Minutes.
You've been voted most valuable player in 2 of those Super Bowls. You're probably the most glamorous player in the NFL. But it hasn't always been like that, right? It hasn't always been easy.
No, I mean, it's never come easy for me. It's never I don't think my mind allows me to rest ever or for things to come easy, because I have, I think, a chip on my shoulder and some deep scars that I don't think will heal, because I was always the person who was always trying to, and I know everybody has these stories of hardships, but I was always the one that no one ever picked. That was the backup quarterback on a freshman team that didn't win a game. And I only played my second year because my best friend, who was the quarterback who started ahead of me, he quit playing. And then finally I get my chance my junior year to play, and we go 6-4. My senior year we go 5-5, and I'm recruited to go to Michigan. Yeah.
You were the 7th-ranked quarterback there when you came in, right?
Yep.
You thought you might not play.
I thought I might not play. I thought, I didn't know if I'd continue to play football.
So here you are playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
And you keep winning. And you end up in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always been this good and nobody recognized it, or what happened?
Yeah, Steve Croft. Yeah, he's always been this good and no one fucking recognized it. Drew Henson, get the fuck out of here.
It's not like I can point to any one thing that says this is when it happened, or it's not like I was a bad football player in high school. I just wasn't good enough to be mentioned with the band. And it wasn't like I was a bad football player in college.
So humble, just like C.J. Stroud.
I just wasn't good enough to be mentioned with some of that. And I think I came into a great situation here. I think it's been a great coach, a great owner, and great teammates. And what this team has needed, I feel like I can provide.
There are some people around the league, sports writers, players, coaches, that think you're probably no better than the 4th or 5th best quarterback in the NFL.
Ah!
Where would you rank yourself?
Oh, that's the worst question in the world. That's, I mean, putting a rank on it, I don't care whether they think I'm the best or the 2nd best or the 3rd best. I mean, I got 3 Super Bowl rings. So that speaks, hey, you say whatever you want, but look at these diamonds on these fingers. I mean, that's...
Hell yeah.
That speaks for itself. I mean, it just shuts a lot of people up.
Which of the rings do you like the best? What's your favorite ring?
Here it comes, guys. This is the greatest fucking line you will ever hear from an American hero by the name of Tom Brady. I got to find the original clip of this. 60 Minutes to kick rocks for having the title of this video say Tom Brady's favorite Super Bowl ring, the next one, and it not being played until 2:39 into it. But this is something that you should all get tattooed wherever you look the most. Is that on your chest? Is that on your face? Is that on your wee-wee? I don't know. I don't care. This is the most important line you will ever hear an athlete say.
My favorite ring. We always said, and I said always, the next one. The next one's the best.
The next one. So when C.J. Stroud wins his first Super Bowl, which is going to happen, that's going to be the next thing that you hear from him. And I love, it's so cute, so adorable. When he's with Kay Adams, who's also cute and adorable, it's so awesome that he's just looking away from the trophy the entire time. So how about that? But let's keep talking about the Battle Red Wave for the Houston Texans at the NFL Honors last night. Will Anderson won a close battle for Defensive Rookie of the Year. 16 first-place votes, 21 second-place votes. He beats Jalen Carter and Kobe Turner, who each had 14 first-place votes. I'll be honest, probably don't sound like the smartest football mind here. I have no idea who Kobe Turner is. Pretty crazy that the Rams almost had 2 Rookies of the Year as well. Puka Nacua, I had heard of a lot this year. The only other guy who got first-place votes for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Also, last night, Andre Johnson finally got in the Hall of Fame, and he deserved to. This is a guy who statistically isn't top 10 in anything. He's close. But this is also a guy who, despite never really having somebody lined up across from him as good as the other 2 wide receivers he was competing with in this year's class, Reggie Wayne, who had Marvin Harrison across from him, Torrey Holt, who had Isaac Bruce across from him, he never had a receiver like that. And he also never had a quarterback like Peyton Manning or Kurt Warner. There were some very good years statistically with Matt Schaub, but I don't think we would ever have put Schaub definitively into the top 10 conversation for quarterbacks across the NFL. And whether it was David Carr, the many quarterbacks over the course of the 2013 season and 2014 season, or some of the other quarterbacks for the Texans over the years, Andre always produced. So I'm really happy for him. He's not a diva wide receiver. He didn't whine. He didn't bitch. He did his job. He shut up. And I know that the idea of shutting up and playing is problematic for some, but it is refreshing when somebody just doesn't talk, especially at that position, where it seems like everybody has an outrageously sized ego on the field or off the field. That was never Andre Johnson. And on top of that, the guy played physically. There's too many wide receivers, I think, these days who don't. And call it toxic masculinity or something like that, but one of the things that I don't like about the game of Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt, perhaps hypocritical, because I think if I had played in the NFL, I would be doing the exact same thing as them so that I didn't get concussions and I didn't get lit up. I'd actually have to catch the ball to do that. My hand's not the best. That's why I played defense more so in high school at a very low level. I know no one gives a shit, so bringing it back. I hate how Torrey Holt and Reggie Wayne were the kind of wide receivers who'd catch a pass and just drop to the ground. Fight for every fucking yard you should get. You can get. I hate that. Like, oh, I'm just going to give up on the play and stop right here. And no. Get more yards. Every yard matters. Dodging out of bounds, playing indoors, playing on turf. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. That's not real football. I loved watching the Patriots pulverize those two teams that they were on. And I hate that because the NFL has moved in such a direction toward being finesse and offense-centric, that guys like Reggie Wayne and guys like Torrey Holt, who couldn't get off a jam at the line of scrimmage because of their inability to do that, the rules got changed so that the 5-yard contact rule gets enforced to an honestly obnoxious degree. Hate that. So Andre Johnson getting in over a Colt, and also Andre Johnson getting in over another guy who was on the Greatest Show on Turf, Rams. Hell yeah. Hell effing yeah. More from the Battle Red Wave for the Houston Texans before we take a look at some comments. DeMeco Ryans may have been robbed for Coach of the Year. Kevin Stefanski beat him. I thought that was a possibility. Both got 165 points in a weighted vote system, but I guess first place votes are the tiebreaker. Stefanski had 21 first place votes. Ryans had 20 second place votes. Ryans had 21. Stefanski 18. Third place, Ryans 2. Stefanski 6. Dan Campbell, who got 3 first place votes. Kyle Shanahan got 3 first place votes. John Harbaugh got 2. Sean McVay got 1. Complicated it a little bit, but it was always between those two. And it is pretty funny to see that DeMeco Ryans and the Texans absolutely skull-fucked the Browns in that first-round playoff game. Because that's what happened. They skull-fucked them. Oh, Paul, it's graphic. That's what happened. Like 45-14. And part of it has to do with the fact that one team had C.J. Stroud under center. The other had Joe Flacco. I think there's a strong argument to be made for Stefanski winning Coach of the Year because of what he was able to do with all of the quarterbacks and in spite of the struggles by Deshaun Watson. They had 5 starting quarterbacks over the course of the regular season. But at the same time, had a very good defense. And really, the Coach of the Year award is more about, hey, we were most wrong about this fucker going into the year, than it is this is definitively the best coach in the NFL, or this person definitively did the best coaching job over the course of a calendar year in the NFL. So that expectations element, I don't know what the expectations were attached to DeMeco Ryans. Mainly it's better than David Culley, better than Lovie Smith. With Stefanski, I think a lot of people were like, he might get fired in the middle of this coming season. And instead, they have a good year despite all the shittiness at their quarterback position, whether due to injury or just bad play by Deshaun Watson. So I get why he won it. It is weird, though, that he wins it and that Bobby Slowick, who did not get a vote and probably shouldn't have as assistant coach of the year, that Bobby Slowick lost to Jim Schwartz, who was the Browns defensive coordinator. Okay, Schwartz had a lot of great players on the Browns defense to work with. He gets that award, especially after the way C.J. Stroud carved it up in the first half in that playoff game. But these votes are done before the playoffs begin, which is why things ended up the way that they did. I think they should announce the NFL awards right after the regular season is done, so there's no awkwardness about like, hey, this guy got smoked by the person who came in second place in a game where both had everyone healthy. But I suppose you could make the counter argument if you're a pro Stefanski or a Browns person that Stefanski and the Browns beat the shit out of the Texans when it was a backup quarterback off. And they did. Kicked their ass. That was one of the worst Texans losses of the year, in addition to that loss against the Jets. So there you go, guys. Let's read some comments here. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Lots of comments about my sexiness. I appreciate that. What else do we got? Hey, what do we got? People were saying this is like the third hour of my radio show. Basically, the Twitch is the only people commenting right now. It's mainly people that are from the ESPN 97.5 Twitch. Still scrolling. This is the best show on Twitch. Well, CJ's freshwater jellyfish. I appreciate that. Coogblay says Pauly G #1. Coogblay says Houston most eligible bachelor. La 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 da 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 da. All right, guys, let's talk about Super Bowl 58. So if you listen to the radio show earlier this afternoon, I'm not just picking the Kansas City Chiefs because I think they're a better football team. Patrick Mahomes versus Brock Purdy. I mean, what are we fucking doing? The 49ers are 2-point favorites. By the way, the Chiefs' defense is one of the best in the league. They got Chris Jones. They got L'Jarius Sneed. They got Trent McDuffie in the secondary. And yeah, the 49ers got some really good skill players. Deebo Samuel. They have George Kittle. They have Brandon Ayuk. And Christian McCaffrey, of course, that are all around Brock Purdy. But Chiefs' defense gets slept on. They got a very good running back in Isaiah Pacheco. Their running game matches up very well against the 49ers defense that has names in the front seven, but hasn't really been playing well recently. And also, it's just easier to root for Kansas City in this game. And I can't believe I'm saying that because we're talking about the team that has Patrick Mahomes, brother of Jackson Mahomes, husband of Brittany Mahomes. By the way, Brittany Mahomes, good for you in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. And I approve. She deserves to make the cut. 100%, especially compared to some other people who have been in that magazine of late. But to bring it back, I mean, the Chiefs are chasing the Patriots. Patrick Mahomes is chasing Tom Brady. Tom Brady never chases anybody except for the next one. But he's likable, even with the people that are maybe around him in his immediate circle. You got love on the side of the Chiefs. We'll talk a little bit more about that later between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. It's easy to root for Andy Reid. Philadelphians were dicks to Andy Reid. There's that Chiefs fan who's been made a victim by Deadspin, the 9-year-old who was accused of wearing blackface. It was black and red face. Come on. Don't prioritize one color over the other. The 49ers, meanwhile, are, I think, being absolute weenies leading up to this game. So, I don't know how many people saw that story about the 49ers being upset that their practice field at UNLV was too soft. But there's also this story, and this one's courtesy of ESPN.com. I'm going to put this in the picture-in-picture, youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant says, so you can read along. I can't believe that the 49ers are upset about waking up at 6 a.m. 7 minutes before George Kittle's 6:10 alarm was set to go off, he and the rest of his 49ers teammates were jarred awake by something else. The fire alarm at the team's hotel on the outskirts of Las Vegas. I have advice for Nick Wagner, who wrote this story, and I'm no writer, but you are killing your story right away if you say a person woke up 7 minutes before they were supposed to, unless they're completely obsessive compulsive to the point that they will convulse uncontrollably and spontaneously combust if they can't operate exactly by their schedule over the course of the day. This story's fucking dumb. The story continues. Not every Niner was as nonplussed as George Kittle. Christian McCaffrey and Nick Bosa are devoted to routine and are notorious in that 49ers locker room for that. During his availability, McCaffrey made it clear he didn't believe the alarm was set off by accident. I think there's no way it's random. It's part of it. It's just more wood thrown on the fire. Said Nick Bosa, I'm sure somebody did it. It kind of reminded me of Philly when they had this construction going on outside. It was early in the morning, and they were like demolishing a bridge right in front, right outside of our hotel. We haven't had the best luck, but no excuses. So, two guys making more excuses, and we had the excuses last year when the 49ers didn't have Brock Purdy. Speaking of Brock Purdy, kind of a boring guy. Doesn't seem to have a sense of humor. You're not going to laugh when somebody compares you to Lee Harvey Oswald. Come on, that's funny. He kind of looks like Lee Harvey Oswald. Better to be compared to that person than to that random TikTok girl that everyone seems to think he looks like. Much rather be compared to a serial killer than a woman. A serial killer. I don't think he killed anybody else. An alleged assassin who may have been helped by the CIA. Sorry, big brother. Over a teenage girl. Like I'd rather look like that one than the other. You know? So, more on Brock Purdy. I mean, the 49ers clearly don't like him that much because they were looking at alternative options during the offseason. They still like him. I mean, he's a good quarterback. He was a top 5 MVP candidate. He was number 4, in fact. But this is a guy that they were looking to potentially replace with Tom Brady this year if he wasn't 100% Purdy, ready to go at the start of the year. And Purdy's good, but he's aggressive, and he's going to make mistakes, I think, against this Chiefs defense. And I'm just tired of hearing about Brock Purdy. Also, another reason to root against the San Francisco 49ers. Here is a story in The Athletic. And in case you don't believe me, again, this is a real article at The Athletic. In the 49ers building, Kyle Shanahan is always watching. It's like Big Brother. Here is a clip about Kyle Shanahan as a coordinator in Washington. Kyle Shanahan was leading a conversation about blocking the backside of a play when tight ends coach John Embry offered up a suggestion. Embry had worked for head coach Mike Shanahan, Kyle's father, with the Broncos 10 years earlier. Kyle liked Embry's approach. He agreed with the suggestion. The group moved on to the next play. Not 30 seconds later, the door to the room flew open. No. I don't want to do it that way, and here's why. That's Mike Shanahan. All the coaches were like, where did he come from? Mike came from his office because he had been recording things. Well, apparently Kyle Shanahan's doing the exact same thing. He's like recording people. They're keeping tabs on people. And this is something that took place multiple times with both Kyle Shanahan and with Mike Shanahan. So this guy is pro-spying on his players. Pro-spying on his team. Absolutely awful. Come on, we can't have that. So there's lots of reasons to root against San Francisco, but I will admit there's something that I should not have taken part of. And if you are watching on Twitch or on YouTube, I'm sure that you may have heard this on my radio show. This is just a terrible moment as the cherry on top of all the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce content. So without further ado, here is an LA Times reporter asking Travis Kelce one of the most insufferable questions you are ever going to hear.
Hey Travis, Amy with the Los Angeles Times. The paper sent me here just to cover you and Taylor.
Okay.
Obviously, you know, everyone is so captivated with your relationship. Some people have likened you to the American Royals because you're a football player. She's a pop star. Why do you think everyone's so fascinated with you two?
I think the values that we stand for, and just who we are as people. We love to shine light on others, shine light around the people that help and support us. And on top of that, I feel like we both have just a love for life.
A love for life.
Let's do the fun one first. I was wondering if you can help me complete this lyric here. Karma is the guy on the...
Chiefs, of course.
Finish it. Coming straight.
What's the second question?
Just letting it sit in the room like a fart. You want to play that last part again? Again, this is a person who's actually paid by the Los Angeles Times.
Love to shine light on others, shine light around the people that help and support us. And on top of that, I feel like we both have just a love for life.
Let's do the fun one first. I was wondering if you can help me complete this lyric here. Karma is the guy on the...
Chiefs, of course.
Finish it. Coming straight.
What's the second question?
Guys, in a way, I feel like I was a part of all this. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it got so bad with the Taylor Swift stuff. I'm sorry. Okay? And just to make sure we never do it again, I just offed myself with an automatic Nerf gun. Ooh, I think one of those actually hit pretty hard. Yeah, might bleed a little bit. So there you go, guys. I'm rooting for the Chiefs in this game. I'm even though I'm tired of the Travis Kelce shit and the Taylor Swift shit. I think we all are a little bit. Anyway, all right, guys. For the people who have stuck around, I think I know what you're sticking around for because I watched The Thing last night. I did. I watched The Thing. Tucker Carlson did an interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin. He prefaced this interview with a little monologue saying, quote, "Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. We are not here because we love Vladimir Putin. We are not encouraging you to agree with what Putin may say in this interview, but we are urging you to watch it. You should know as much as you can." So I watched it. And you can watch it for yourself. It's a difficult watch. I'm not sure how it was edited together because clearly there is a translator interpreting things for Tucker and there is a translator interpreting things for Vladdy Daddy. I found myself often very frustrated while watching this interview because Putin spent the majority of the time not answering direct questions by Tucker and giving very long and drawn-out Russian history lessons. At the beginning of the video, if you've seen it on X, Tucker says that he believes that these long historical lessons were done genuinely. Were they? I don't know. He kept on bringing up that there are documents in front that Tucker could look at it, but there were regularly moments where Tucker would interrupt Putin, and Putin would say, well, I'm going to get to that eventually. But, I mean, he went all the way back to like 800 AD talking about Russian history. And over this period of time, he also regularly brought up Nazi ties that Ukraine has, that Poland has, that one of the reasons that he's invading is because he wants the area denazified. Throughout the lesson, I think the history that he was giving was an attempt to imply that Ukraine's always been part of Russia. But that's not really a great justification for the invasion, considering he waited a while to invade. I think the most interesting thing and I only watched about half of it or so before I was just like, I can't. It's taking too long. He keeps on deflecting, but he claimed that Russia tried to join NATO, which is weird because why would they join NATO? It seems like NATO is entirely a creation to create a unified front in Europe against Russia. But despite those attempts, which he claims happened, to join NATO, talking with American presidents, intelligence supposedly blocked said cooperation from progressing. He said this happened with multiple presidents. I can believe the idea of intelligence getting in the way of something that a president wants to do. For those who haven't, read The Devil's Chessboard. You will be, let's just say, bummed out by how much power the intelligence agencies of the United States seem to have. I think the one thing that we'd all agree with, and we didn't need to see Putin say this, was there's a lot of issues in the United States right now. Brought up that the United States is putting a lot of money into this war, despite all of those issues. And yeah, that's totally true. And I don't want to get into the should the United States be involved or not. Personally, I believe they shouldn't be, but I understand why there are so many people who are very passionate about standing with Ukraine, and I don't think that Russia has really a legal justification to invade Ukraine, no matter how hard Putin tried with that history lesson. But I want to talk not about the actual content in this interview. I want to talk about the reaction to it, both before and after. Before, you saw all sorts of people saying that Putin is using Tucker Carlson. And I mean, of course, that's what any reporter essentially serves as a purpose for, whether it's talking to a sports figure or talking to a politician. Yeah, you're being used. And you better be smart, nuanced, and intelligent enough to understand when somebody who is voluntarily sitting down in front of you with a microphone in their face is telling you the truth, and when this person is bullshitting or avoiding answering tough questions. And I think Tucker's been doing this long enough to have a pretty good feel for it, but obviously some people despise him. Some people worship him. I'm somewhere in the middle, especially considering the fact that this guy once could have done a little journalism on me, the time that I was on national TV getting shit on by Tucker Carlson for being an insufferable liberal who had life come at him fast. Talk about that entire saga in a summer episode. But to bring it back to this, people were calling him a useful idiot. Hillary Clinton, I think, is the most prominent of people that were calling him that. And then after the fact, you saw Europe is threatening Carlson with sanctions. How does that work? How do you sanction a citizen? I want, like, do you just blackball him from ever coming back to Europe or something like that? And the rationale for the pushback against just the actual interview happening is this. And I don't get this concept. The concept that interviewing someone we are all curious about, even if we don't like them, is dangerous. The constant phrase that's asked loudly, angrily, is, why are you giving them a platform? And you'll see this with people who are on Joe Rogan's podcast. You'll see this with all sorts of people who you might disagree with everything that they say. But I do believe in a freedom of speech. I believe that we shouldn't be censored by random people that are saying, you can't talk to this person because you can't give them a platform. Maybe that's the big J journalist in me or something like that. But this idea that it's dangerous to interview Vladimir Putin is just so over the top. It's hyperbole. Why are you giving him a platform? Well, he already has one. He just doesn't have one in the United States. We haven't heard anything from Vladimir Putin in American media. We're not curious at all. The war that's been lasting as long as this one between Russia and Ukraine, we're not curious at all. And I think that maybe some people fear that you watch that interview with Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin and you're going to come out of it saying, you know what? I think Putin should have invaded Ukraine. Guys, that interview was so long and so boring with the fucking filibuster history lessons, whether done to actually explain why Russia invaded or done to just avoid answering tough questions. Either way, it was so boring. There's no way you're going to go into that interview and watch it and come out of it saying, you know what? I think Putin did the right thing here. That's just not going to happen. And if we're trying to be fair and balanced, we have heard from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky a lot. We've heard his side of the story a lot, right? Over and over and over and over and over. Shouldn't a good journalist try to get the other side of the story as it relates to an armed conflict? Even if you believe the invasion is wrong, shouldn't you still ask, hey, why are you guys doing this? That's how journalism's supposed to work. And yet, here we are with a lot of people that are getting super angry and agitated about this interview just taking place. So, why is there this anger? And I think it goes back to this mentality that a lot of people on one side of the aisle, I suppose you could argue it's on the other, but it's mostly on one side of the aisle. They want dangerous people censored or deplatformed because they think the majority of people who could potentially watch them or listen to them or read them are idiots. And yeah, there's lots of dumb people out there, sure. But is everyone dumb? Is everyone an idiot? Are these people who are so nervous about someone speaking publicly, are they right in assuming that a lot of people don't have the ability to think critically for themselves? Especially when this interview begins with a, we're not endorsing him, we just wanted to talk to him kind of preface. And I think for some people who are so ideologically one way or another, okay, maybe it is a little bit difficult, but there's a lot of people in the middle. And I don't like the idea that you can censor or deplatform somebody because you're afraid that people that watch, listen, or read them might not be able to critically think. Who gets to make that decision? We're supposed to believe that there's no bias attached to whatever that decision is made. And I think a lot of the people who don't want Vladimir Putin to speak, they want the general public to believe he's a mad dog. He's evil. We got to fund this war because he's potentially Hitler 2.0, which we've certainly said about other politicians. No. And certainly some of his actions have been evil. That's true with probably every politician in some way, shape, or form. Big evil, little small acts of evil. But I think there's another part of this where people don't want this guy to have a microphone in front of him and be interviewed because it's way easier to hate somebody that you know absolutely nothing about. It's human nature. I know I've been guilty of this multiple times. Somebody that I've gotten into disagreements with before, I've been like, fuck that guy. I'll meet him, and I'm like, oh, this person's not that bad. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And when it comes to specifically Vladimir Putin, I think there's a lot of people in our country who don't want people to hear from Putin, who want you to blindly hate the man and Russia like it's the 1980s again and be all for giving tons of our money we're paying taxes for to fund a war for a country that we're not allied to. I think there's a lot of people on that side of things. I watched the first half plus of that interview. Again, I think it was a bit of a dud. It was boring. I myself am curious about what his actual motivations are, and I don't think from what I watched that the interview justified him. I don't think that this interview netted us a legitimate line of thinking for the invasion. I think he tried to do a little propaganda here, and I don't think it worked out so well. But what's the harm in actually doing an interview like this? I don't think there is any. I'm a curious person. I think a lot of us are curious out there, and I wanted to hear what the guy had to say about it. Do I agree with him? No. Do I like him? No. This isn't an endorsement of him. But it's weird that we're so opposed to certain people that we know nothing about, that we just would prefer that person never speak to us, just to be a vessel to be pissed off at. And something that you're blindly pissed off at no matter what. Anyway. Guys, I appreciate you stopping by at today's edition of the Gallant Says podcast. We do this generally Monday and Thursday nights. Apologies for not doing it on Monday or Thursday night. We did it on Tuesday and on Friday this week. After coming back from a ski vacation, we'll be back at it Monday after the Super Bowl. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul Gallant, and give this video a like. Or you can subscribe on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Gallant Says. I am also on Twitter at Gallant Says. You can watch it there live if you want, and join in live if you want. It's on Instagram at Sports Gallant, Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. After the fact, it's available wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. I am merely Paul Gallant. So long, farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Enjoy Super Bowl 58 and Travis Kelce's impending proposal with Taylor Swift.